Kia ora, I'm Mary Joseph, and this is AJV Global. We are here to talk about some of the most challenging topics around immigration, especially for those based here in New Zealand. I would like to welcome my colleague Namrata here, and she is an ex immigration officer and she's a licensed immigration advisor like myself.
Hi, kia ora, everyone. Thank you, Mary, for the introduction. My name is Namrita, and I'm a licensed immigration advisor based in New Zealand. And I'm an ex-immigration New Zealand staff member as well. I have been an immigration officer, had the opportunity to be a technical advisor, and also acted as an immigration manager during my tenure.
Before we go into the actual discussion, how do you like living in New Zealand?
I think that New Zealand gives you that wonderful work-life balance, and especially if you are looking to restart, the slow pace of life here gives you that breathing space. It's not super hectic. Amazing work-life balance, which we can, I think coming from the subcontinent, I think we all understand the importance of it.
Anyways, let's go on to the topic of the day. So, like I said, whoever watching this video, we are starting a special series where Namrata and I and the other licensed advisors on the team will jump in, and we're going to talk about and discuss. It's more like an internal discussion going out loud to the world. The reason is there's so many immigration challenges that are there, which is behind the scenes, as you as applicants would not know. There's so many things that happen in policy changes that will impact you, but you do not know because it's difficult for you to read and understand the policy itself. Besides that, there are the workings of it. Reading the policy is one thing, but the workings of the policy is a different thing, in terms of the actual application of the policy for the visa application. So we've decided we're going to do this talk, which explains some of the challenges and probably even case studies. We're going to discuss a few case studies that we have recently seen and how we have navigated around it and how we have prepared our clients for it. And most importantly, give any updated information of the recent policy changes or updates that have been announced. So today, the topic is going to be about the immigration visa fee changes that have taken effect this year. We understand as a company, we are very, very aware of how expensive it has turned out to be. I know for some visa categories, it's 3 times of what it used to be. For residents, I understand for residents, it's worth it because, you're going to be living here forever. But temporary visa is one of the most important ones, which I feel will impact heavily on the applicants and your ability to apply on time. And Namita, what is your opening thoughts about the whole policy changes around the immigration fees?
I think the fee changes are pretty significant, like you rightly pointed out, Mary. And I think what it should encourage people more to do because of these changes is to ensure that they get the application in, but get it in with the right documents, because you really don't have the ability to keep redoing it just because cost-wise it doesn't make sense. So if you are paying, let's say $1,500, $1,600 for one applicant, for one application, you want to do it right the first time.
Correct. And it's not just the print, because a lot of applicants, especially, and this is important for those based here in New Zealand, because when you're lodging the application, you don't lodge just for yourself, you're lodging for your spouse, you're lodging for your family. So imagine you're lodging an application for 4 people in your family, you're spending about $4,000 on immigration fees. And for whatever reason that doesn't go through properly, it impacts a lot of things. If there is a visa decline for whatever reason, you do lose the ability to relodge the application while you're still on shore. That means understand the cost they will have to take, because they'll have to leave the country and then submit their application. I think a lot of people do not realize the risk around that. So what do you think about this particular aspect?
There is something called a Section 61, but that's not an application, it's a request.
Correct.
And we have seen that, people have had their Section 61 requests not being considered, because immigration is under no obligation, A, to consider it, and B, if they do consider it and they decline it or refuse it, they don't have to give you reason for it. I think you need to seek advice, from an advisor, from an immigration lawyer, and do it right the first time.
The other thing that I wanted to take your opinion specifically is around As an immigration officer, as an ex-immigration officer, can you tell me how it also impacts the mindset of the immigration officer where an application, number one, is not done on time, second, is done with incomplete applications? How does it impact their ability to process the application?
Okay, so I'm going to talk from my perspective, and this is definitely not shedding lights on the ability and capability of any other officer.
Yeah.
So when we get an application, let's say it's passed all your support officer duties where they've checked for mandatory lodgement requirements met and all. But when the application comes to me with the basic documentation, with no explanation on your circumstances, why you need the particular visa, it's incomplete. I don't have the full story. I have the option of, if I'm unsure, to decide it, by either asking for additional information, which is RFI, or raising concerns, which is, again, a scary proposition for most people who ever got a letter outlining concerns, which is called a PPI letter, potentially prejudicial information. And during that process, all it does is it delays the processing time.
Quickly, one line about what's the difference between an RFI and a PPI, because a lot of people do not understand the difference.
So RFI is request for information. It is when very basic, maybe minute information is required. It's just needed for the officer to make the decision. There's a deadline given similar to a PPI letter. A potentially prejudicial information, on the other hand, can be quite serious because it has a deadline, but depending on what your response is, there's going to be a decision. They're not going to give you another opportunity to say, oh, okay, you still haven't explained it, but here's another letter for you. That doesn't happen. So the PPI letter can lead to a decline, whereas after an RFI, you could still get a PPI letter. So you could still have a chance. But my thing always is, even when I was an officer or even as an advisor, is to ensure that we don't get to that stage of RFI and PPI. And I think that's one of the things I think AJV, I think as a company and all our LIAs can actually say that with a lot of confidence, that majority of our applications, because we put so much effort in doing it right the first time, we do not get as many RFIs and PPIs that we hear about from people who come to us later. And
I pride with those statistics. I mean, I was telling somebody, we have 100% on our resident visas. We have 100% on our accredited employer work visas, and then also partnership visas. These are very, very critical milestone, applications, in a process. Yes, student visa is also equally important, but then a lot of our student visas come from offshore. So obviously the number slightly is different. However, it's much higher than what India as a market, the decline rates are. At the last stats I remember, we had a 43% application decline from Indian applications, but whereas we have been at 75 plus. That clearly shows the effort that we put around the applications and the quality of our applications. Applicants, I would say, I won't take away from that one. And I tell my team this over and over, because I head the service team of licensed advisors, and I'm an advisor myself in Lodge. I'm like, do it right the first time. There's more work and energy and hours put into an application if you do it with incomplete application or incomplete. Even if you're putting an application or lodging an application with, say, a document missing, it's important to mention that in the cover letter, and we do that job. An applicant may not be able to do that thorough job and understand the psyche behind what an officer looks at, what is the officer focusing on. So the cover letter becomes very, very important, and we are very, very proud of the work we do around those. And last week I had a client who emailed me. He's based here on shore, and he said, Mary, could you check with immigration if my application has been allocated, because I have a friend who lodged 2 days later than me, and he's been getting emails from the officer asking for information. And I just smiled and I candidly told him, no news is good news, number one. And if your friend has got questions and queries from the officer, that means he's not even lodged the application properly, and I'm sure my client who's watching this video will smile, because he will know who I'm talking about. But that's the point. It's like we don't get communication from immigration officers that often that others do get, is because we do it right the first time.
Yeah, actually, it kind of does, and it kind of validates what I think is that Also, we've said that to clients as well. The more extra information you give, which is not needed, you make the officer go through that much more, documents,
Yeah.
that many more questions, that many more verifications.
Yeah. Yeah, this can be a problem when you submit extra information which is not needed on the application. But how do you know, as a layman, as you don't an applicant who does not understand the immigration law, how would you will not be in a position to decide what you need and what you don't, and that's when you end up submitting. Please don't think that Namrata and Mary are here selling their service, that they have to for clients to come in. No, we're doing this. A lot of you might decide not to come through us after watching this video. You may have your own advisor, but we as advisors, we feel it's responsible for us to share this information. Like I tell a lot of clients, if you can't afford us, or if you feel that you have another advisor who can do better, no issues, please go there, but take advice. It's
Yeah.
very, very important to take immigration advice. You won't treat yourself, especially in New Zealand. You can't treat yourself. You'll have to go to a doctor, right? We are doctors, but for immigration law. Yeah. So please do consider talking to us before making that decision. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this is a lot of you might feel immigration fee itself is quite expensive. How do I afford immigration fees? Sorry, service fees for immigration advisors. Please understand, and you will have to do weighing of balancing of what is at stake. We have explained why you need to work with us, but on your end, you need to also understand what is what is at stake for you and your family, right? What are the implications of a decline or a delay of that application, or just the mental strain of sitting and waiting for a visa application to be approved. It took me 24 long months for me to get my residence, and because it happened through COVID and we had to wait, processing was stalled. And when people tell me, Mary, you don't know what I'm going through, I'll tell you, I've gone it 3 times more. Now, at least the processing timelines is 2 or 3 months at the most. But I waited for 24 long months during COVID for my residence to be approved. So we as advisors speak out of our own experience, speak out of our own journey of being a migrant here in this country, not just coming in straight on work visas. Our husband, her husband studied, my husband studied here in this country. So there are a lot of things that we understand about your journey is because we've been through that at various stages of our own lives. Okay. So on that note, all I can tell you is talk to us. We do provide free consultation. The first advice is free. We even give you a written assessment when you call us regarding your situation. Feel free to send us an email if you'd like to reach out to us to newzealand@ajvglobal.com, or give us a call on our toll-free number, which is 0800 696977. Those calls come straight to me. We are a small team, and I have no problem being the receptionist. So please feel free to pick up the phone and talk to us on our toll-free number, or send us an email. We are pretty quick at emails as well. And we'll talk to you. We'll try and understand your situation. We will tell you what it costs to work with us. And if you feel that you can't afford us, talk to us about a payment plan. We can talk to you and see how we can help you through. Yeah, we can help you through, understand, okay, what's the cost for you, immigration fees, our fees, other disbursements, and we can, work it out. So have a chat. It doesn't cost you anything. It only costs you 5 minutes or 10 minutes of your time.